Hi everyone. Today I wanted to take a look at some of the down ballot races that were actually won, despite the fact that Senator Sanders not going to take home this primary, but progressives have won in some key down ballot races, so for House and for Senate. Now for Illinois, the Illinois 3. We're going to discuss Illinois 3. We're also going to discuss the Colorado Senate primary. Now, it's very much worth noting the Colorado Senate, it was not the primary that will go and take on Cory Gardner. What it was is that you had to get at least 30%, I believe, of the caucus vote. So this was a Colorado caucus, or maybe it was a preferential primary. I'm not exactly sure, but this contest you had to get 30% in order to appear on the ballot for the actual primary. Now, I believe the progressive here, Andrew Romanoff, did reach that along with John Hickenlooper, and if another candidate in the race wants to get on the ballot, they need to have a certain number of signatures in order to get on that ballot. So that's how it works in Colorado. So this is just the one to get on the ballot. However, it's worth noting that this provides very valuable insight into what the Hickenlooper versus Romanoff situation could look like when we come to it in June. So, firstly, in the Illinois 3rd Congressional District, there was a primary there between Dan Lipinski, who was the Democratic incumbent, and Mary Newman, who was the progressive challenger in Illinois 3, and she was part of the Justice Democrats. So that was the same group that elected Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, and Ayanna Pressley, along with a few other, I think, Pramila Jayapal, Ro Khanna. I think that's the 6 of them. There might be one more I'm forgetting as of right now, but Lipinski versus Newman, Lipinski being the Republican incumbent, and sorry, Lipinski being the Democratic incumbent. He's such like a Republican. I almost said Republican incumbent, but his voting record overwhelmingly quite Republican light. He's one of the most pro-Trump members of Congress. He is one of the final pro-life Democrats in Congress, anti-choice Democrats in Congress. Mary Newman, a progressive challenger running on Medicare for All, Green New Deal, pretty much the Sanders platform. Newman was pretty much running on the Sanders platform, but Lipinski versus Newman. Now, it's worth noting that Newman actually ran in 2018 against Lipinski. So, yeah, she also ran in 2018. She came up a few points short, but this time she's actually beaten Lipinski. So, if you actually take a look at the results, Mary Newman won with 48,357 votes, 47.1% of the vote. Lipinski, 45,905 votes at 44.7%. So, Newman winning that race. Sorry about that, just having some water. But Newman, it's always important to stay hydrated in these times with COVID-19 and everything. But Mary Newman, 47.1%. This is very interesting because Newman versus Lipinski, I mean, progressives have been let down by Jessica Cisneros, losing to Henry Cuellar by just a few points. She came up just a few points short on Cuellar. But now Newman actually beating Lipinski there. So then if you take a look at that, that's also there. And then Colorado Senate. So the results, I mean, it's interesting because Newman, very interesting, challenger given she had already ran before. It's going to be interesting to see if the progressives can keep up this sort of string of wins there with Newman. But yeah, Lipinski actually going down 8-term incumbent. It's definitely not as surprising as AOC's victory because AOC was definitely the underdog in that race. However, Lipinski was still the favorite to win in his race, probably 75-80% favorite, but there was a good chance Newman could actually pull off the upset, and she ended up doing, whereas there was virtually, or at least people thought, there was virtually no chance that AOC could actually catch up. It barely got any national press because many people viewed, AOC couldn't win, right? She obviously did win, but yeah, it is very interesting to take a look at it. So Newman, 47.1. There you see the thumbnail for this video. She's part of the Justice Democrats, same group that elected AOC and all of the other Democrats I already mentioned. Colorado Senate, moving on. So the Colorado Senate, it's, oh, by the way, this district, Illinois 3, the Republicans don't stand a chance. Mary Newman's going to win in a cakewalk in that district, so she will be another member of the Justice Democrats, another member of the squad, most likely. She is part of that movement. So, Colorado Senate, so again, only to get on the ballot. I explained that at the beginning of the video, but I couldn't find a good graphic for the results, but I just typed it up here. 55% for Andrew Romanoff, 31% for Hickenlooper. So again, non-binding. Well, I guess it is binding in that you can get on the ballot, but it's non-binding in that Romanoff isn't guaranteed to go up against Gardner. But Andrew Romanoff, 55%, John Hickenlooper, 31%. So Romanoff, the leftist, Hickenlooper, the centrist. But yeah, that's also very interesting. And it's worth noting that Romanoff was the leader of the Speaker of the House in Colorado, and Hickenlooper did have a famously unsuccessful presidential bid. And I do, in a way, Amy Klobuchar, if you take a look at Amy Klobuchar, she said, I never lost an election, right? Even in high school, I never lost an election ever. Well, you did just lose the presidency, and by a pretty big margin there for Senator Klobuchar. But Colorado Senate, Romanoff and Hickenlooper. Romanoff running away with it, and many thought that Hickenlooper would be an absolute shoo-in for this primary, but clearly not. Romanoff still going up, and he gave a he's pretty kind of aggressive against Hickenlooper on the campaign trail. He knows that, he's still a bit of a long shot in order to take down John Hickenlooper, who does have the backing of many Democrats. So that's going to be interesting. And I think that if Romanoff wins this primary against Hickenlooper, and I think Romanoff will have a very solid chance in the general with Gardner, I think then progressives could say, look, we actually did win, statewide races, and that could help them in the future with things like presidential races if they can try and get the ball rolling a little bit more. But Colorado Senate, Hickenlooper versus Romanoff. I mean, that if it comes down to that, that's going to be pretty annoying to say. Andrew Romanoff versus John Hickenlooper is like the longest names in the world. But yeah. So up next in I'm not going to reveal which specific moments they are. But up next, now that this primary is starting to wind down, I'm going to break down the 7 most, or probably more like 6 most influential moments in national polling. So I'm going to break down each kind of big shift. So each kind of big shift, I'm not going to reveal which ones they are, but you can probably guess by just looking at the polling graph. But I will be doing that countdown. Hopefully that will be something fun, starting at a combined 6 and 5, then 4 and 3, then 2, then 1 after that. So 4 total videos on the most critical moments in the 2020 race. But progressives win key down ballot races in Illinois the 3rd and Colorado Senate. So both of those, they're going to try and start to get the ball rolling a bit, even with Bernie Sanders, who came up short, obviously, in his bid to be the nominee. But that's it for today's video, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you all in the next one. Good night.